So before I give you the Woman of the Hour, Beth, you know you're much loved. We will miss you tremendously. I will miss you personally. Just have a small presentation from your sanctuary family to remember us by. And I give you the Woman of the Evening, Beth Silverman.
Where to start? Well, it'd be socially appropriate. Although, did you notice for those of you who have not noticed before, I had the dress on. It was a great shock to most people that I had legs, that I was capable of wearing high heels, and looking a little more like a grown-up. I've actually enjoyed it, and I mean, acting like a grown-up. A little overwhelming, more than a little overwhelming. First of all, I just want to thank the team that put this together. Obviously, Judy Harris-Kluger, our executive director, but the rank and file team here, Jelaine Bailey and Allison Ross and Angela, Pam Krasner wouldn't be here. And I have a feeling there were a lot of other little elves working along the way behind the scenes, helping to make this possible. And of course, to Gina and her company for graciously providing this ultimate arena. I think the shot is, I actually had said to Judy, I wasn't sure I could handle a party. In my 70, I'm now 70, which was a big turning point, and that precipitated lots of other thinking about my life. I'm a big believer in rituals and rites of passage for everybody else. I don't think I've ever had a birthday party with more than 10 people in the room, let alone any other party in my life. So the prospect of this event was rather daunting. I was beginning to feel that I was about to die. This was life review. But I'm not. I'm not about, but I am about to transition. And, I am both a public person, but in many ways a private person. And walk around sometimes feeling my passionate commitments, but not really thinking too many people know who I am, which is a complicated place to be sometimes. So here I am public, and trying to merge the public and the private. I am retiring not just from Sanctuary, and although I am segueing into other forms of work, but my relationship to time and space will be different. But I am retiring from full-time social work after 46 years. 46 years of an extraordinary journey in my life. Lots of places, venues, people. I have loved being a social worker. To have found a calling that allowed me to act upon my commitments to human rights and social justice. And my great shock tonight is that everybody truly got that I was committed to the arts. I thought that was my private little nest somewhere, although I do talk about it. What I thought I would do is, if you bear with me a bit, and I would probably edit some things out because lots of people have talked about my life and my career, so you know more about me than probably I was going to talk about in terms of my career. But there were themes of my career that I wanted to talk a little bit about that maybe have resonance for where we're at in terms of combating all of the issues of the day, the intersectionality of poverty and racism, homelessness and gender-based violence, and the struggles that we have. And as I think about my life and how that has intersected for me in an organization like Sanctuary, I, like lots of other people, have struggled with the issue of volume between the desire to be a simply evolved human being unto myself and the desire to belong, which I think are universal struggles that we all have. And then there's the issue about personal change and social change. One is the unique individual, the other is looking at the aggregate, the collective, the social systems, the social structures. Much of that is what attracted me to Sanctuary, because I saw it as an organization that was deeply committed to both personal change and social change. I remember going to social work school in the 60s. It was a period of tremendous activism. I entered school, graduate school at 21, thinking that we really did need to change the fabric and create more of a democratic society. Certainly here in the United States, it's the heyday of the anti-war movement, the women's movement. There was a lot of social ferment going on. But I was also 21 years old, and I was trying to figure out who I was. And I said, well, maybe the smaller units of attention, I will deal with, individuals, families, and groups, and I'll take my electives in community organizing. And at that time, in schools of social work, there were these crazy splits between the organizers who were macro-level change agents and the people that were looking at individual self-actualization. And I did wonder at the time why the worlds weren't united. And I'd like to believe that social work schools today have brought those diverse entities into one whole and created a holistic model in which personal change and social change are going on a scale of evolving collectively and not separately. Sanctuary embodied all that. So when I came as a consultant in 1994, at the time teaching full-time at Columbia, and kept my part-time job in organized labor, because at my heart, as you reflected tonight back to me, I am a practitioner. As much as I love teaching, I love being a practitioner, about being a social worker. In the trenches, and when I came to social work, to Sanctuary in '94, there was a lot going on. Welfare reform was going on, homelessness was peaking, domestic violence was becoming a much more prominent social issue, poverty, and all of those, and child welfare and the interface between the child welfare system and domestic violence. And I said to myself, back in the trenches, I dare to teach, must never stop learning. Time to go back to the trenches. And I sat in on some support groups because I was asked to do an evaluation of the clinical program. I interviewed staff, sat in on groups, and met a lot of clients. And ultimately, it was the voices of clients that did it. I said, well, something is going on here. Something's going on, and I wanted to be part of it. So I reversed my entire career. And I left Columbia, and I continued to teach part-time. And I basically said, essentially, if you'll have me, I'd love to join the team. And that is, in fact, what happened. And we were a much smaller organization. But it was a cauldron of change. And it was an opportunity to bring those worlds together. There's a book that I often use, The Teachable Habits of the Heart by Robert Bellah. And he talks about that struggle between, particularly the American character, between rugged individualism and our drive to be part of a whole, to be part of a community. And somehow or other, I've always felt that kind of the social work thing. Are we going to do the grassroots organizing? Are we going to do the individual counseling? Are we going to do them both? Will we master the skills to do all of it? Somewhere in all of us, our agency had a retreat, and everybody participated with the Epic Theater. And I think the overarching desire there was that we all treasure and value the daily work we do with our clients, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Whether it's helping with maintenance, or cleaning the shelter, or staffing the shelter, being security, or case aid, no matter what, a counselor, a lawyer, a staff project assistant. We have the direct practice, but I think what came out of that is that we all want to be part of a movement. We all want to feel that there's something bigger than ourselves. But how to do all that? And over the course of my career, I've watched various trends and the backwards and the forward movements between the professional and the grassroots organizing. The professional individual approach and the grassroots organizing. And they should never be so distant. And I think there's a moment in history now where the tent is big. When I graduated from social work school, actually my first year placement, I was at the heyday of the welfare rights movement. I was working in the South Bronx in a welfare center. And the heyday of clients who were on the welfare rolls were organizing. I think they wanted to break open the system and say, poverty, you gotta do something about poverty. It isn't just welfare checks. Next year in my career, I'm on an inpatient unit. I wasn't hospitalized, but I was working on an inpatient unit. Although the anger and the revulsion you saw at the said, aha, clients will help to run the wars. This is not one flew over the cuckoo's nest, but it was, we will teach clients about democracy. They will vote on who gets passes on the weekend, and they will understand the personal empowerment of making life decisions. And then we will discharge them to Washington Heights and West Harlem, and the rat-infested, poverty, no jobs, no heat. And what would happen? They would be hospitalized. Therapy to me was a nice idea, but it was necessary but not sufficient. Lots of waves, you know, and then I participated in the heyday of what was called community control. So I was working at one point in establishment psychiatry, and I was a liaison to a community-controlled mental health facility. What was community control? It said that the people who live in the neighborhood had to control the provision of the services because you lived in the neighborhood, you understood the neighborhood. And there was an animosity between the professional world and the community. You see what I'm getting at? There's this separation between the unique professional skill that is brought to bear and the mass collective movement. Us helping individuals and the desire to be and to self-express and the desire to become part of a larger community. I think all of us struggle with this as people at Sanctuary. I think as human beings we struggle because we want to be, in a sense, self-actualized. My love of the arts was about my deep appreciation for the uniqueness of the capacity to express ourselves, no matter what that form was. But I also know that art could reflect back social human rights issues and social justice issues and could raise levels of awareness and consciousness. And somehow or other, but it's in a non-judgmental way that is open to all human beings. So I think the fact that during the course of my life I've been able to weave these things in, you know, and at some point I go to work in organized labor. Organized labor is about the collective masses. And while I'm working in organized labor, the social work and psychiatry are developing biological psychiatry. And that becomes another fad. So genetics becomes the shaper of behavior. How you define a problem is what you choose to do about it. So then everybody wants to become an expert on that. And science becomes important. It's not that it's unimportant, but you can get caught up in your professional identity and you want what's our attachment to the community. And I think that's where we're at now at Sanctuary. I think the staff and the Move to End Violence movement is saying the grassroots is out there. We need all of you in the social services and legal community to lend your expertise, but the tent has got to get bigger than it is. We all need to be in it together. You know, we've talked a lot about how creativity allows us to express the uniqueness of our own voice. And Gina Gibby Dance Company has certainly been a stellar example of that in the simplest gesture. Because in our movement workshops, what do? No person loses their individual gesture. There's the autonomous gesture, there's the I statement. In our support groups, always use the I statement. But by the end of all those little I's, there's a collective mosaic of movements that becomes a we. That becomes a capacity to connect to the community. Judith Herman, famous psychiatrist who wrote about trauma and recovery from domestic violence and all forms of trauma, said that if trauma is about a sense of disconnection, healing is about a sense of connection. And I've always felt that arts did that. Lots of people have mentioned my parents, so I can't not mention my parents. I think that I was weaned on dual commitments. There's an expression called tikkun olam, which means to heal and repair the broken world, which really means that there's injustice in the world, and that we as human beings have an obligation to spend part of our lives doing something about it. That to be a good, whole, menschy human being is to engage in that process to heal that world. But I was also exposed to an enormous amount of love of the arts. From Brahms' Lullaby, my mother singing me to sleep, to Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, Mozart. How many 9-year-old girls were going to German lieder concerts? But I was. And my love of music and art and dance, you know, I mean, I remember seeing on the bookshelf the plays of Sean O'Casey, the poems of Walt Whitman, Arthur Miller, all of whom were writers that talked about society and the inequities in society. So these are the fabric of what I was raised with. My 96-year-old mother, who's totally compass mentis, who, I must tell you on a daily basis, if she doesn't call to point out an article, has cut out an article on domestic violence, gender-based issues, social policies, homelessness, wants to make sure I haven't forgotten to vote, not just for who's running, but what all the bills are. And am I voting yes or no on following legislation? But in addition to that, my mother soaks up art and music like it's her oxygen. And you can't grow up in a household with that kind of nurturing and not have it influence how you see the world. So Daddy would be very happy tonight. You have had a profound influence on my life. But someone else has had a profound influence on my life as well. For many years of my life, I was very much a solitary singer. I was passionately committed to my work life, and I frankly defined myself by my work life. It was who I am. It was my relationship to the world. No job was ever just a job. It was truly my calling. I changed my major 4 times in college because I was looking for a calling. Fell in love with a lot of subjects, from philosophy, and anthropology, and sociology, and literature. And then I worked in the South Bronx, and then it was all over. Following year, I was in Columbia University Graduate School of Social Work. Of course, I was still trying to figure out how to bring my guitar into sessions with all my clients. And actually I did, which is what led to my final paper in graduate school on the role of the arts in the healthcare process. But something happened to the solitary singer. And his name is David Yam. And transformed my life. You know, love and work are actually a pretty good pairing. They're rather magical when they go together. And David is my life partner, my mate, my compañero, my husband, the love of my life. He's the one I get to debrief all the good, the bad, and the ugly and sanctuary. You don't want to clean his ears out from when he's earthy. He has absorbed my existential angst. He has played with ideas deliciously with me and inspired me. But he's been there to support me through all the various realms of my life, really, as a fellow journeyman with me. There's nothing better than having someone in your corner who knows you warts and all, who shares that with you, cheers you on, and is there when the dark clouds move in, but is also there to share the joy. But the other thing that David brought into my life was this incredible possibility of having a family, children, grandchildren. I have a wonderful daughter, Shauna, and her husband, Alex, and their 2 beautiful children, Chloe and Elijah, who are here tonight. My son, Brendan, and his wife, Raquel, and their wonderful children, Benjamin and Olivia. So hopefully, as I re-engage time and space, I will have more time for them as well. Jazz classes for little ones. I've already been to one class. I was the oldest person in the room. I was doing my best, having been trained in hanging out with Gina and her company, figuring out how to move. The musician who was there says, you know, you may be old lady, but you can come back next time. Yeah, he did say that to me. But I actually felt pretty good about that. But you know, you saw as Allison went over my trajectory of my life. There's no question that education, teaching has been central to my life. It's true, teaching social work students have been, wherever I've gone, I've had social work students part of my life. Social work students push you, they keep you growing, I believe that students in all organizations is a healthy thing. Students push you, they want to know why you're doing it that way. And when did you last change that form? But all things aside, when you have to tell somebody why you do something a certain way, you have to own your own body of knowledge, and there's nothing like having to share it with somebody else to claim it and to stay clear about why you do what you do. But I think education is about what we all do at Sanctuary. I think it's the approach that informs the way we work. Raising consciousness for people, whatever your role is as an aide, as a case manager, as a social worker, as a lawyer, as a project assistant. I think raising levels of awareness and consciousness about social conditions and the forces that shape our clients' lives is to liberate them. It's what empowerment is about. John Dewey has always talks about something called the habits of the mind. I referred to Robert Bellah before, habits of the heart, but Dewey talks about habits of the mind, and he basically reminds us always that education and experiential learning are core to all of our lives and need to maintain a crucial part in our lives. And I think that is exactly what we're all about. I like to think of Sanctuary as a learning organization, that we're all still learning and growing. We're in a process of maturation endlessly. Who would have thought we'd have all these family justice centers? The development of extended programs for teenagers, extended programs for immigrants, extended programs on trafficking, exponentially. And as Allison, we're going to be in the New York City Housing Authority soon. We'll be back at it. We'll be in the community. And we were a small organization. Who would have known? But it takes listening to clients' voices as well. One of the things that I think all of us at Sanctuary pride ourselves in is that we listen to the voices of clients. And many of the programs that were created were in response to what we heard our clients say. That's a learning organization that says, well, I don't know how to do it, but let's figure out how to do it. There's an unmet need. But that was also pushing my boundaries. Dorsha talked about my taking on that French-speaking route. I'm not really fluent in French. She overstated I am proficient in French and a willing pupil. I think the first thing I said to all clients, and we did build a village. We absolutely built a village. And the client who said she remembers me sitting in the middle of the group, what she didn't tell you was that there were 18 women in the room and there were no more chairs, and I was sitting on the floor in the middle. And I got very comfortable saying the phrase, comment dit-on en français? How do you say that in French? So I basically said, you know, I have information to share and you have knowledge to share with me. So we taught each other. And that's basically always been the model. And I think as we go forward and we engage larger communities and grassroots movements and professionals, we have a lot to feel proud of in the social work department. I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud of having worked with you. I have an incredible leadership team. Allison Ross, our deputy clinical director, who talked about having come here as a master's student, managed to earn her doctorate while she was with us. Angela Rivera, who's a visionary, non-pariah, who has opened up hearts and minds in the way we approach economic empowerment. Jelaine Bailey, the director of our crisis shelters, who has helped orchestrate this event quietly tonight behind the scenes, and has not only kept our shelters full, she's kept women nurtured and fulfilled, and made sure that the quality of their lives while they are in shelter is as good as it can possibly be. Pam Krasner, who could not be here tonight because of the death of the family, she is a newer director of our children's program that has helped to expand our work with teens and youth and children all over in the family justice centers. And I can't let the night go by without mentioning Denise Garner. Some of you may or may not, there's so many new people on the staff. Denise Garner and I, back on Chambers Street, we go way, way back. I hired Denise, and she came up here from Maryland today to be here. Denise, could you just stand up? I want everybody to hear you. Some of our roots go very deep. Some of our roots go very deep in how she helped to evolve. Was a true kingpin, a queenpin of how we exponentially expanded our approach to services for children, the little people. She was always proud of calling them the little people and developing models for how that should be done. And I always remember as well how fervently and proud she was as a Black woman and helped us forge our celebration of Black History Month. And encouraged us to celebrate all the different ethnic groups of women and children and adults, anybody who crossed our paths, to celebrate the cultural diversity. Denise was always emblematic of that, and I treasure her companionship as a colleague, and I can't thank you enough for coming. This is about a deep bond of friendship over time, and I treasure you. We have both gotten gray over time, and you're looking very foxy. So, you heard from Dorchen Leitholtz, and she was being very modest. When you work in an organization that has a Dorchen Leitholtz, I think there is only one Dorchen Leitholtz. Dorchen Leitholtz is a force of nature, and a heroine to many. Dorchen, the director of our legal center, has set the agenda and continues to set the agenda and push the boundaries locally, nationally, and internationally around domestic violence, gender-based violence, and sex and human trafficking. To work with her is to find someone with boundless energy, beyond boundless energy, who nurtures her staff and students and clients. And she too is someone who never says no. There's always a way around the problem, or new ways, very Talmudic. On the other hand, Dorchen would always say, there's got to be another way to solve this problem. And Dorchen, you can be sure, will solve it. She is backed up as well by an extraordinary staff. But there is, in the totality of Sanctuary, extraordinary people. I truly mean that. When I said before, the maintenance staff, I think everybody takes pride in creating a clean, safe space that matches the dignity that our clients deserve. I remember when we moved from Chambers Street down to the Wall Street area. I will not give our address away, for those of you who do not know. I was one of those people who said, Wall Street area? Really? Wondering if it was going to be a little bit much. We were certainly much too cramped, teeny office. All the lawyers were in one office, all the social workers in another office. And our little kitchen was the other office, and we had one group room, one meeting room, one everything, and toilets in the hallway. And mostly we were on the 5th floor, and the elevator more often didn't work, and the women carried their carriages upstairs. It was committed, but small. But we were all around. Moving down to Wall Street was a pretty move. That neighborhood, I should say. Because a lot of the clients said, wow, we deserve this? So, we have to catch ourselves in what we think. People do and don't want to feel comfortable in terms of space. They felt that it dignified their presence there and that we saw them as totally valued human beings. We didn't need to be high-priced law clients of Wall Street lawyers, but they were dignified as survivors of abuse who were entitled to services. And that was really quite an extraordinary thing. But whether it's HR or it's operations or facilities or finance or development, we are all in this together. Our staff retreat said we need to learn more about what the other person does so we can appreciate it. But I think, and I do appreciate all of you coming out here tonight, reflecting back to me. Some of you who developed this program tonight, I am beyond deeply touched that you have chosen to tell me that you noticed a few things about me that I was not aware were as palpable. You could have made more fun of me. I would have taken it. I would have expected somebody to walk in with a lot of scars. Those of you who don't know me, I wear a lot of scars. However, I'm not wearing one tonight, but I tend to wear a lot of scars. Signature. But, all joking. You probably miss my nuggets from Provence. The jokes about France.
Shoes.
Oh, yes. I mentioned all the departments, and there was the voice. I mentioned all the departments, but you can't work at Sanctuary. There's a phenomenon called Leah Chapman. For those of you who do not know Leah Chapman, anybody not know Leah Chapman? Leah Chapman and I do share a lot of shoes. This is true. So she says, where'd you get those, Beth? But all joking aside, Leah helps to plan all of our events and parties, has a majestic, beautiful eye for that which looks good. She treats people well. She garners all of the donations of the agency, keeps the boutique running smoothly, and make sure that all of our clients have clothes on their back, you know, whether it's coats for the winter or helping our clients whose children literally have fled with nothing on their back to make sure that we can get them through the night, like the pants, the underwear, the shirts, the blouses, and jammies. She's always there at the ready to help all of us, really, with a smile and tremendous generosity of spirit. So I miss you, Leah. And you know, we are both Librans, so we both always remembered that. But you know, so where are we? You know, it's this event is happening at a time when Ferguson, Missouri is happening, and Staten Island is happening, and a lot of social injustice is in our faces yet again. I ran a lunchtime group today with the Economic Empowerment Women, a group that I have every other week. And while the purpose of that group is to monitor their development and how they're mastering their tensions of living in shelter, dealing with their children, and mastering Microsoft Word and Excel, literacy and math, today I couldn't help but ask them, so what do you think about Staten Island? And it was an interesting commentary. It was more than anger. They were also inspired. We talked about courage and demonstration and social protest. And I said, did you notice who showed up at the protest last night? And they all raised their hand and they said, Beth, it was so integrated. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope. That they noticed how many people of diverse skin tones, cultural backgrounds, religious orientations, all showed up because a black man died and there wasn't justice. So, you know, the struggle goes on. And I think we're all poised here at Sanctuary to make those moves. I think there's a sense of collectivity. There's that desire to be that unique voice, and the clinicians here in our staff are really extraordinary. I really have a sensational staff that have grown by leaps and bounds, and developed incredible acumen and skill and passion and dedication to nurturing the lives of children, youth, and adults, and give of themselves in incredible ways, and hopefully feel that they are growing in the process. But over the years, I have struggled, I have grown, I have learned, and the struggle goes on. But I am forever grateful to have been part of an organization that allowed me to fulfill that dream of mine, to be in an organization where personal change and social change were essential parts of the same agenda. You know, I think perhaps it is the voices of survivors that will resonate in the archives of my memory the longest, alongside of that call for action. So, as I've often said to Angelo in private, adelante, continue. In French, la lutte continue. The struggle goes on. You know, I had an organizer who gave a speech once when I was working in organized labor. And at the end of my speech, he slipped me a little note. And he said, not one day without love, not one day without struggle. And he meant love in the broadest sense of love and connection. And struggle meaning a commitment to righting the wrongs in the world. So we're all in this together. I will be an ally and alum of Sanctuary for Families. And I will find my new home here, where this convergence of bread and roses. I can't thank you enough. I know this song well, and it has long spoken to my heart and mind. And I thank you, Judy, for bringing that. So this is my new home here. Soon after, within weeks of my leaving Sanctuary, I will be housed in this house of art with the Gina Gimme Dance Company, and I will be in their community action network here, linking the dance community, the human services community, the artistic community, the social action community, dealing with gender-based violence and any form of social oppression, where the world of art and social action and dance, and music, creativity can come together. So on that note, I thank you all for this unbelievable acknowledgement of me as a person and for my journey and my time and space at Sanctuary. And I will long remember you. Thank you, everybody.